Hey everyone, welcome back to the off-season. March is Women's History Month, and fitting we have an all-female show this week, but I wanted to highlight some of the amazing women working for the Chicago Bears, and one of those is Ashton Washington. She is the Bears player personnel coordinator. She is a pioneer and one of the coolest people I've met because I think she has a dream job for a lot of women. So first off, Ashton, welcome to the show. Thank you for making time. Super excited to talk to you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
I first want to go through your title and what it means for those who might not know. Player personnel coordinator, what is it and what does that all entail?
For all 32 teams, that role is different from most. For me here with the Bears, it basically entails what Ryan Poles, our general manager, likes to say, the nervous system. So I'm working closely with our college scouts. I'm working closely with our pro scouts. I'm working closely with GM, assistant GM, and then also delivering key information to different departments such as equipment, such as strength and conditioning, our training staff, player engagement, and then most importantly, being a part of the evaluating process with our pro scouts and college scouts, and being a part of the process of bringing players in our building to help build our roster.
Super important. I joke because the off season is kind of like our downtime, but for you, the off season is like your busy time. It's your Super Bowl for like the next month or so. Is that true?
Absolutely. I always say, personnel, we work year round, but like you said, this time right now, free agency, leading up to the draft and bringing some rookies in is the Super Bowl. It's a fun time.
I love that. You grew up in a football family. Your dad coached. Your brother is now playing in the NFL. So was it growing up in a football household that made you want to get into football, or was it something else?
Number one, growing up in the state of Texas, all we know is football, 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 football. And then having my brother, having my dad, that played a huge part in that as well. I remember growing up and, every weekday basically going to practice and watching my dad coach my brother during Little League all the way up into middle school. And then being a part of, the process with him going to college. So it definitely played a huge part in me just having the love for the game and being around it all the time.
You talked about being the central nervous system in a front office, and you're tapped into a little bit of everything. We actually talked 2 years ago when I first met you, and we did a story. And I remember mentioning at the time you were 26 years old because it was so young to have such a cool and important role in an NFL organization. I know as someone who's worked in sports, you have to work your way up. And every step of the way, I've always experienced a little bit of imposter syndrome because you just have to prove yourself, and it builds confidence over time. Even in the last 2 years, how do you feel like you've become more confident in your role and taken its own ownership?
It starts with the people that I work with, the guys on, again, both the college and pro side, and from the top down. So that's starting with the McCaskey family, with Mr. Warren, with Poles, and just having the ability to, speak up, have a voice in the room, and never feel any type of way. They don't treat me as if I'm the only female here or only female doing this. It's more so you're a part of the team. You have your own opinions, your own viewpoints, and we want to collaborate and bring that into what we're doing. So for me personally, I've never felt imposter syndrome since I've been here. It's more so just how can we help you learn and continue to grow in this business?
I think that's awesome, and probably a testament to, as you mentioned, just the people you're surrounded with, because I was talking to someone from the previous front office you were hired under, and then you talk to the same people in this front office, and they all have the same thing, is that you're just a superstar. And I feel like that's a credit to probably the work you've put in along the way and stuff like that. Who have been some of the biggest influences in your career as you have gotten to this point today?
It takes a village, right? So I've had many mentors, and I currently still have them now to this day. Family, as we talked about before, brother, dad, include mom, grandma, and so on. But for me, starting off in the Power Five, division was Coach Lovie Smith. He brought me on as the director of high school relations / assistant coach for his staff at University of Illinois. So having him in my corner at the start of my young career was huge for me.
And did I hear a story that he actually reached out to you in a surprise email that you weren't expecting?
Yeah. So during the process before University of Illinois, I was with the XFL, And the XFL went down due to the pandemic in March 2020. So back against the wall for myself, trying to find a job. You're young, so you're trying to reach out to as many people as you met along the way. So I'm shooting out my resume to any and everybody that I've ever came in contact in person or social media, vice versa. And I got an email back, and it was from Coach Lovie Smith. It was Zoom call set for 4 p.m. Central Time, and I remember this like it was yesterday. And I was shocked seeing that email. I was like, Coach Lovie Smith, and just being a football fan, I said, I got to take advantage of this one.
I love that. I was watching the NFL 360 Women in Football special that aired last year, and you were one of the women highlighted. And it talked about you working in a sandwich shop, then you're working in Rivals, 247 Sports. You mentioned the XFL, then you go to Illinois. But I think it's a testament to that visions can change along the way. I'm sure you went into this not knowing where you would end up one day, but how do you feel like the vision did change as you were going through each one of those steps?
I think for me, the vision never changed. It was more so of not giving up and continuing to strive in what I'm doing. So that means you're going to hear a lot of no's. You're going to hear more no's than yeses. So for me, working at the sandwich shop, that was to supply, basically using that 7.25 an hour to supply going to like the Rivals events and the 24/7 sports events. So when I was covering for them, it was all free. So it's basically like, hey, I'm a college kid. I got to save up my money, and I got to get to these different high school recruiting football events to do what I got to do. And having that, it just kind of shaped into, again, the vision, knowing what I wanted to do. And that was similar to a football player is you want to be at the pinnacle. You want to be at the top of the top, which is the NFL. So that vision never changed. It was just more so of, how to get there.
I remember when we talked the first time, you mentioned just being part of the 1%. That is the NFL, because
Yeah.
there's only 32 teams. There's only so many people that can get an opportunity in the league. And I want to go back to when you were first brought on, because you're always hired because you're qualified, right? And someone believes in you to be able to take on a role and be able to do it. But to be the first female on the coaching staff at Illinois, then the first time full-time female scout with the Bears. What do you remember about that feeling when you got that opportunity and those chances?
If you've ever heard the song by Eminem when he says you only got one shot, it's your chance now. That was pretty much me in those moments, getting hired at a young age and being a part of many staffs with a lot of people with a lot of experience, whether that's been 10 years in the game, 15 years in the game at that time. So going in and just knowing this is the opportunity at hand and taking advantage of it and putting my best foot forward.
Where do you feel like the league has grown most when it comes to women and getting opportunities in football?
It's continuing to grow. Every year we go to the combine, and for the
Yeah.
combine, it's basically, to me, it's like a big NFL family reunion. And every single year, you see more and more women a part of different teams. So it's nice to see. Even here at the Bears, we've continued to grow that for women in football in different avenues. It's not just coaching, it's not just scouting. You can be, in media. You can be in strength and conditioning. You can be in nutrition. Like there's so many different avenues within having, women in football.
You mentioned the combine, and it's one of my favorite weeks because, as you just mentioned, it's kind of a reunion. You get to see basically anyone that's involved in the NFL. It could be a GM, it could be a scout, it could be literally anyone that has crossed paths with football and the NFL, which I think is so cool. But one of the coolest parts is the Women's Forum that continues to grow each year. What kind of feeling do you get if you've ever sat up there on a panel talking to an audience or watching someone like a Howie Roseman be up on a panel, someone who's just won the Super Bowl, and continues to share the messaging of encouraging women to get into sports? What kind of feeling do you have being there and listening to that and seeing the impact it's had?
That's incredible. To have the ability as a young woman in football, especially if you're starting off, early in your career, having the access to these general managers, to these owners, to these head football coaches, and to have access to the women that are already doing it is huge. I think I give a huge credit to the Chicago Bears because every single year, our top guys, they're in there. President Warren, he speaks almost every single year. And so that just highlights exactly what we're doing here. And it showcases what the league comes together to bring for women in football.
The Bears just hosted the first collegiate women's flag football game in Illinois history earlier this month. You were there to see it and speak to those athletes. I think back if I was in high school and I knew that flag football was going to be an option, you bet I would be playing flag football. I mean, how cool was that to be able to witness that and see the growth of that sport and the opportunities it's lending women?
Well, most importantly, I wanted to go out there and
Right?
play. That was like it was so much fun just standing there watching, but me being competitive, like again, I wanted to go out there. So to see those young women play the game of football and to be the first to do what they did with the championship here at Hallis, it was remarkable. It was more importantly, it opened the eyes of many that, you can get a scholarship to play the game. And you can also upcome and play in the Olympics. So if I had that opportunity back when I was young Ashton, that was something I would have definitely put on my bucket list. Like, hey, I want to play this game and I want to take it to the next level.
I love that. Okay, because I ask a lot of the players this when I interview them, like if you weren't playing your position, what position would you play? So if you had the opportunity to play flag football, what position would you want to play?
My brother's a wide receiver, so I'd have to be a wide out so we can compete all day, every day, and learn from each other. So
It's in the blood. I love
wide
that.
out.
It is so cool though. Like I think back to like the options. I played volleyball and soccer, but as a football fan, are you kidding me? Like that would have been my #1 choice. So I'm like, I just wonder what the growth of this sport is going to be as it becomes more available for all these women. Do you ever hear things of stories of girls coming up to you that are like, hey, I'm going to go do this and I'm going to make a career out of it?
Absolutely, especially with girls flag. I remember at the championship game, I've seen a lot of familiar faces. We've done multiple scout schools with girls flag at our facility, and I actually got this. It was a bracelet, and it has my favorite quote on. They made it for me. The
Oh my
team did.
gosh.
It says "Job's not finished," and it was right before I spoke to both teams. And I'm thinking in my mind, like, hey, you want to have me crying right before I do a speech to everybody? So, having those young ladies build relationships with you, whether that's seeing you like something on this as an interview, just seeing what's possible. But, growing that and growing the game, I don't think there's a limit to what they're capable of doing.
Do you ever, I guess I don't want to say, does it ever come as a shock to you that you're visible? Like you are someone that people are pointing to as she is an example of what you can achieve. And I think when we talked the first time, you're like, go higher than me, do more than me. You're just one example of what someone can do.
Absolutely. I'm still to that. I know we talked 2 years ago, but 2 years later, right now, that same mindset is still here. You go past me, go farther than me. I'm going to keep working, keep doing what I got to do and raising the bar. But I also want, young women who are watching as well to continue to raise the bar for themselves. So exceeding the expectations.
The quote, job's not finished, you just mentioned, you have it on the bracelet that they made for you. You use it quite often. I want to know like how much, I don't know how much you can share, but just coming out of free agency, you're still in it. I mean, it never really ends for the Bears, and the excitement of building in the trenches, getting these guys here. What was your role in all of that? I know you mentioned off the top kind of like your day-to-day role that's in your job description, but because this is so new, like what role did you play with that big week that we had just last week?
Well, one is sitting in the different free agent meetings, whether that's as a personnel staff, and two, with our offensive coaches, defensive coaches, and getting kind of their collaboration on it as well. And then third would be, helping as a team build the board for free agencies of who we're going to target and bring in and sign. So that would be like those main core things. And then most importantly is now that you've got your players is bringing them to Chicago, bringing them to Hallis Hall. So being a part of that process of the travel aspect, the visit, having the help of our scouting assistants, our logistics team. So yeah, it's a full go and it's fun because the best part about it is, you might get a call or a message from one of the players that we signed and they'll say, hey, the Bears are A1. This is the best visit I've ever had. And that just speaks volumes to us as a staff and the process that we have already in place.
I love that. Oftentimes I get asked personally, like, how do you deal with people who say, well, you don't know football. Like, you can't be in football. Like, do you have a response that you like to tell people if you've ever heard that?
I heard that a lot, but I usually don't have a verbal response. It's more so just my work and work ethic. So I just come back with the ability to help the team in everywhere I can. And, having the visible aspect of that of, hey, she's good at this, she's good at that. But also having, for me personally, understanding where I'm weak at. And it's not being weak in the game of football, but it might be, in a different area. And it's just something to continue to learn and grow on, just the whole process.
How about this? Both George McCaskey and Kevin Warren said, quote, when Ashton Washington becomes a general manager. You got a lot of people on your side. To hear those words, them speaking that into existence for you and wishing that for you and helping you get there, that's got to make you feel pretty good. I know you're a be where your feet are kind of person, but to be a GM and be a woman as a general manager, that is insane and so awesome.
You took the words out of my mouth. This is how I know you know me. I was about to say it's more so, one, thank you to Mr. McCaskey, and thank you to Mr. Warren for even saying that or speaking that high of me. But right now is being focused where my feet are. Taking advantage of the opportunity at hand, being the best player personnel coordinator for the Chicago Bears that I can be, and not thinking too far. Right now, my mindset is what you just talked about, free agency and this upcoming 2025 draft and bringing in new players to help the Bears win games. So again, thank you to them. But yeah.
I can say it because I've heard it from multiple people that say you will be a GM one day, and that is so freaking awesome. Last question. You're talking to a little girl. She says, Ashton Washington, I want to be just like you when I grow up. What do you tell her?
Have a lot of confidence and never take no as the final answer. Keep working, keep striving, and most importantly, continue to exceed your expectations.
Ashton Washington, we appreciate your time, insight, and definitely motivation to all girls and women out there who want to get into football. And I think you've said it before, if you want to, there is a place for you, and there is a place for all women in football.
Absolutely. Job's not finished.
As Ashton Washington said, job's not done, but this show is. We have great stuff from Courtney Cronin and Ashton Washington. Make sure to watch the extended interviews on the Fox 32 YouTube page. That is it for the offseason this week. We'll be right back here next week on Fox 32 Chicago and Fox Local. See you then.